Kat kum ka scheme ki Nongdie Madan ka Meghalaya Street Vendors Protection of Livelihood and Regulation of Street Vending Scheme araja arpaulai ka jing Ithuh ya ki Nongdie Madan kan long tang ya ki badon ka epic ubasa ha Meghalaya omduna ya ka Snem bat ubala Shong di Madan la handru Bnai udairu banyo ya ka license na ka municipal lani ka district council haki jaka ki bahap kat kum ka jing pet jongki ya ka nila menjur ka jing elang ka kanhun menteri hak khat pratarik risau araja arpaulai unong aikten ke sorkar uba polling do ulaya thu bayaki ni kikandan na menjur Hadien balayo ya kajing ajing mut na kiken hun seng bhalang ki dorbar shnong ka KHADC kumju na ka seng kinong di Madan ka sorkar lingba ka tanat penroi sor kala pen khreru ban bu ya ki jaka na ka benta kinong di Madan bat ban pen benaru ya ki jaka bomdei ban Shong di Madan khnang ban wanra ya kajing khot ban lait na kajing khap nya
ensure that the registration process is legal now, because this scheme is part of a central act and we are framing the rules and the scheme in accordance with that central act. As of today, this is an unregulated trade, right, where you don't even know the exact number of persons involved in that trade, where we would know whether that person who avails a license would today sit in Lakra and tomorrow shift to Polo. So how do you regulate unless you have this scheme in place? So, which is why today we have approved this scheme in order to be able to regulate vending, and it is only when we do that that any authority can issue licenses. And for instance, there is a role for the Dorbar Snongs, okay, that they shall also have to furnish a certificate from respective Dorbar Snongs. Now, unless you have a scheme in place, how does the Dorbar issue a certificate for somebody who keeps moving from one locality to the other? See, as I mentioned earlier, under this central act, okay, the state had only adopted the act in 2022, right? So that was just last year, and today the government, if you talk of government, this government is barely 7 months old. So now that we are seized of the enormity of the problem, we are determined to, as I said, have a fine balancing between somebody's need for livelihood and others' need for safety and free movement and not causing inconvenience to pedestrians or motorists, which is why this scheme has been envisaged and approved by the cabinet today. Based on the survey and the documentation process, which I have spelled out, that they have to possess, for instance, an EPIC, that they are voters of the state of Meghalaya, and also that they have stayed in Meghalaya for at least the last 3 years, and that they have been trading or vending in a particular place for a minimum of 6 months, and also that they possess a trade license based wherever the Trading by Non-Tribals Act is applicable. Okay, based on their having met these conditions, we will then separate, the legal from the illegal, and only legal, authorized, registered vendors will be given spaces in the vending zones. Purpose of the scheme is to facilitate registration of these hawkers based on certain parameters, and once they fulfill the criteria as defined by those parameters, we will then have a list, and this list will be put up before the vending committees, the town vending committees, which will then approve the list accordingly. And the requirement for a trade license would mean that it is applicable in areas outside the control of the municipal board. It will be based on the cabinet decision today. We will notify the scheme and also notify the areas which we will be covering immediately. So it should take about a couple of months. Based on this master plan and the identification of zones will be based on certain criteria. For instance, we will make sure that these zones will not impede the movement of traffic, the movement of pedestrians, will not cause law and order issues. Those are factors that will be taken. In 2 months' time, we will be ready with the registration process. After that, we then decide on which areas will be vending and which areas will be no vending zones.